and I'm an adult child. Oh, let me start that again. Okay, my name's Oroki. I am an adult child recovering here in Chicago. Good to be here. Thanks, Renee, for giving me the opportunity to serve in this wonderful program of ACA. See a lot of friends on here that I didn't expect to see. Hey, y'all. I thought I was going. I've never been to this meeting. I've heard of it, but I thought I'd be in this meeting with new people, and because there is a voice in me, and it's a critical voice that says, "You share all the time, Oroki. People don't want to hear you. You always talking." It's not true, but it tells me that. So I was kind of thinking, oh, so I know Renee will be here. Renee's heard plenty of my story. I knew Terry B would be here. She's heard a lot of my story, and I'm seeing a lot of other faces. So um, I'm here, and I'm woke, and that's a big deal. I'm woke. I generally don't wake up, and right now in Chicago, it's 11 o'clock. But normally I don't get up to at least 12 o'clock. I don't go to bed to 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Even that's an ACA thing. I used to say my body clock was like that. And I had the psychiatrist for years who worked with me, tried to get me to go to bed early. I'm like, nobody can make me do anything. In fact, I realized the reason I started staying up like that is because it was one of those things that they can't make me do. And I was really on that. They used to make me do stuff as a kid. I was always, this is so unfair. I can't wait till I grow up and I can do whatever I want to do. Yeah, I'll tell you how that worked out. But anyway, so I would stay up. I would be in the bed, woke, pretending I was sleeping, and I was feeling like I was victorious. They can't make me sleep, and I felt like I was winning in that. I mean, it was it's part of the dysfunction. I mean, for me, you can't keep making me do stuff and think I'm not going to retaliate. I may do it passive aggressively, but I'm going to do it there. There was a time when I did not brush. I think it was like a year. I think I was like a teenager. I didn't brush my teeth for a year because that was something I could control. Seemed like my mother used to, when she was trying to chastise me. We didn't get hit, me and my sister, but my mother would say, like when she saw she was losing out on an argument or something with me, she would say, "Did you brush your teeth?" And no, I ain't brushing my teeth. In fact, I'm not brushing my teeth. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking that we always had a live Christmas tree in our house. We looked very perfect on the outside. So we always had a live Christmas tree. And one year, my mother decided that we were not getting a live tree, that we were getting one of those fake aluminum trees. And I was so angry. I was a teenager. I was so mad at her about that. And during that season, I did not walk through the front door. The whole time that tree was up, I walked through the back door. Cause you can't make me see that tree if I don't. That's who I was as a kid. So I'm going to start off with a story. I am a storyteller. My profession, seriously. I started telling stories. I was Mary when I was 7 years old in the Jesus' Mother Mary in the Christmas pageant in school when I was 7 years old. That's the first time I remember being on the stage. I remember in 8th grade being Maria in West Side Story. These are the big productions I remember, being Maria in West Side Story. I also remember that my mother was the Girl Scout leader. Again, we look so perfect on the outside. My mother was the Girl Scout leader, and we were friends with the Tono family who lived down the street from us. And this is really strange. I'm talking about 60s. I'm 70 years old. So I'm talking about in the 1960s that this Japanese family lived down the street. They hadn't left yet because Chicago is a very segregated city. But anyway, my mother and Mrs. Tono were the Girl Scout leaders, and we did traditional Japanese dancing. That was my first time on television doing the coal mine dance, and I looked that up and thought, fortunately, because of the internet, you can look up anything, because I wasn't sure if I made that story up. I'm not sure for a lot of stuff if I made it up or not, but I looked it up, and that really is a traditional Japanese dance, the coal miner dance. And so I've been performing a long time. I used to make up stories and invite kids to listen to them. One of my cousins I've been in contact recently, who lived next door to us, said that I would sit in the bathtub and she would come over to our apartment and sit on the commode and talk to me, and I would tell her stories. I don't remember that, but it sounds like something I would do. So again, I've been telling stories a long time, and then I came into recovery in the 80s, and that was about sharing and telling stories. And I realized people want to hear my stories. And so from there, it just expanded and expanded. And now I'm part of a professional storytelling group, one of the biggest theaters here in Chicago. And I tell stories. And I'm one of the most well-known storytellers out of that group. And I'm good at it. See, I've learned in ACA, I can take credit for what I'm good at. I'm good at it because I work on it regularly. So anyway, so I'm going to give you all a story starting off, tell you a little bit about who my family is and where I come from. So this story is called, many of you probably have not heard it. Many of you have heard my story. This one's called The Ice Maker. So as I'm growing up, my mama's mama, Granny, has a wealthy, very married male friend for as long as I can remember. We know he's not our grandfather, but he's at all our family gatherings. Mr. T affectionately refers to our Granny as the lady. Granny has a job in a pillow factory. Mr. Money Buckets, Mr. T handles the big stuff, cars, trips, nice homes. From my young eyes, it appears that Granny is living a charmed life, at least materially. I might ask Mr. Todd, so what are we doing for Granny's birthday this year? He beams, blazing that Chessy Cat smile of his. It hasn't been decided yet. What does the lady have in mind? I know he's fibbing. We all know that he's the one who'll decide how my grandmother spends her April 12th birthday, which, by the way, I have chosen as my ACA recovery day, April 12th. So again, Granny's birthday is on April 12th. So it often falls on Easter. Perhaps this is the year he'll finance her pillow factory workers, Granny and my mama, to rub elbows with the wealthy before heading back to the machine line at Pillows Unlimited. I'm the middle of Granny's 3 grandchildren, all girls. It is implied that we are groomed to be ladies. What does that even mean? My father, who is at least 2 years older than his mother-in-law, Granny, clearly hates her. He never resists the opportunity to let me know that there's something sinful about this Granny Mr. T thing. It's never spoken, but implied. I'm a kid. I'm confused. I recall Granny's Woodlawn community apartment, where she has a bed that lets out the wall, where she is the first person I ever knew to own that box, if you're old enough, that box that somehow magically emitted some kind of power that produced UHF television. Yep, spending the night at Granny's means watching wrestling on Channel 26 while curling up under comforters that smell like heaven with my thumb-sucking little sister. It was during one of those visits that I called myself making a big confession to Granny. We don't eat butter at our house. We prefer margarine. What made me think that would impress Granny? That's because you all are uncouth. A girl of 9 that I am is not quite sure of the dictionary definition of uncouth, but I know it's not a good thing, not ladylike. Not sure what happened, but there was a bleep in the Granny Mr. T thing. Seems Mr. T is not around anymore. Granny is apparently in a relationship with Bert L., a humble, thin-framed fellow who works at Pillow Unlimited with Granny and Mama. I tell you, this Bert L. guy is no Mr. T, but he's a nice man. It was Burdell who drove me in his raggedy ass station wagon to freshman year at Northern Illinois University, 1971. Then Granny gets a new side by side refrigerator with a made in the door ice maker. This is new to us. Nobody we knew had anything like this. Wow. Do I smell a Mr. T move? Yep, he's back. Burdell is appropriated back to his role as the guy on Granny's job. It's 1985, the year I turned 32. I meet this fine ass, dimpled, dark chocolate chip of a black man at a 12-step recovery meeting. Damn, them dimples. He suggested we meet at a recovery party. Sounds good to me. I get all gussied up in a short leather skirt, tall leather boots, biker jacket underneath, a leather bustier. All black, of course. I'm newly divorced, looking forward to meeting up with this fine specimen of a man. I enter the party alone. I'm new to the recovery scene. I don't know anybody there, but I'm confident it's going to be a good night. After all, I'm meeting up with Mr. Dimples. I make my way through the crowd. The DJ is pumping Patti LaBelle's I Got a New Attitude. Shaka Khan's I Feel For You. Okay, I wonder if I'm going to take you home by Lisa Colt Jam. Who knows? Maybe I'll get taken home by Mr. Dimples. I searched the room looking for him. I forgot to mention he had a jerry curl. Not a dripping jerry curl juice, but a jerry curl nonetheless. That's 1985, y'all. I've been steeped in African culture since my teens, and I hadn't had chemicals in my proud, unruly, rebellious, black and I'm proud Maine since 1968. Didn't seem like a likely match. I told myself that once he realizes how much he likes me, maybe even falls in love with me, he'll get rid of that jerry curl. Isn't that how relationships work? I thought so back then. There he is on the dance floor with a woman. I'm cool though. Was he supposed to just stand around and wait for me, who he barely knew? Of course not. I'm a reasonable woman. I don't think much of it as they, him and that woman, finished that dance and dance again and again and again. This time, saving all my love for you. Whitney Houston, of course. I just knew that once he realized I was there, he'd shower his attention on me. He didn't seem to see me at first as they danced to Aretha's Who's Them and Who. Then our eyes connect. At first, I wasn't sure that he'd seen me, but he looked for longer than a glimpse. Okay, when this song is finished, he'll surely make his way over to me. Right? Remember, he invited me to this party. I put on my fakest a smile. By the way, I have dimples too. When that song finished, he waved me over. All the time that woman he was dancing with was at his side and smiling, a little too close. I'm thinking, I'll come over to where they're standing, and he introduces me to her. Doesn't feel comfortable. In fact, it feels edgy. I remember so many details about that night, but I don't remember her name. However, I do remember her gloating, radiating, gushing at me without saying a word. Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, yes, he did invite me to a party, and there his ass is with another woman. I kind of sort of smile back, and then I leave. I swallow my pride. Never mentioned this incident to anyone until recently. Now, you may be curious how things work out for Mr. T and Granny. Mr. T never had children. She died first. Mrs. T died first. Mr. T moved my granny into the high-rise condo that he shared with Mrs. T. Personally, I think that's a little creepy, but who am I to judge? One day, on Granny's April 12th birthday, Mr. Todd rolls out of the bed and just drops dead on the spot. He leaves everything, well, almost everything, to Granny. There were a few miscellaneous women that he left meager stipends to here and there, but nothing like he left my Granny. As that waiting pays off, even though he never married her, were there funeral financial limitations that he was protecting the lady, my Granny, from? It was a prepaid grave next to Mrs. T that he was buried in, And then my granny eventually had that man dug up, bought herself a crypt, and buried him in that. And right now, she's buried next to Mr. T in that crypt right now. Okay, back to Mr. Dimples. That was not the last such episode with him. There were all kinds of red flags, bullhorns, even Oroki, don't do it. Well, I've been married to him for now almost 40 years. I haven't been fulfilled emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally for a long time. But he's a great provider, a hard worker. He fixes stuff. I think I thought he was going to fix me. Unlike Granny, I didn't spend my time dedicated to a job that was likely beneath her prominence. The lady. I've had a couple of bouts with drug addiction and mental illness. I've worked, but when and where I wanted. So most often I feel stuck, not a victim. Still, my options for leaving often feel limited. Side note, they are limited when I restrict the resolution to my situation to my limited thinking. So a couple of years ago, my refrigerator broke. Me and Mr. Dimples have separate kitchens. Although we live in the same space, the only common area we share is the laundry room. I've never bought a refrigerator. I never needed to. I think my thinking must have been like kids who've never been to a farm and think peaches magically appear at the grocery store. So after Mr. Dimples and I do our regular familiar dance, knowing he's going to be the one to buy me a new one, I now have a shiny new refrigerator with a side by side ice maker. Thank you. Okay, so that's what goes on in my house. That's a little what goes on in my house. So, yes, I married someone in recovery back in the 80s that was cute, looked good, took care of me financially, and it sounded good. That's what my daddy did. My daddy was a hardworking man. He brought the money home. As far as I know, my daddy didn't chase women, but he was an alcoholic, and he came home and he was a chef, not a cook. My daddy was a chef. He was a cook, and he would come home and he drank Calvert Reserve, and he would sit in. My mama would bring him his dinner in his reclining chair, and as the Calvert Reserve sunk in, he would begin to harass me. And what it looked like was, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're never going to be anything. You're more like your mother's side of the family. Standing me and my little sister up, who was 4 years younger than me, in the mirror, telling me, you're never going to be like her. Nobody was doing anything. My mom saw this happening and she didn't do anything. I've done enough work, even pre-ACA, which I've been here now 4 years regularly. I was initially introduced to ACA back in the 80s, but it's been 4 years now that I've been here regularly. And even before I got here, I had, and I don't want to minimize this, because the meeting I was in, the loving parent meeting I was in last night, the reading was about not minimizing what happened to us. And what happened to me was bad. Sometimes when I'm talking to my therapist and I can see in her eyes, like, wow, that's really bad. Because I can tell the stories. I tell you, I'm a storyteller. I'm really good at telling the story. But the work I'm doing now, I'm doing two. I have two therapists. One of my therapists asks me all the time, but does your kid know that? Yeah, my adult knows all the stuff. I got all the books on the shelf over here, the Bradshaw, the Claudia Black, the Virginia Satir, the Wounded Heart, all of those books I'm looking at on my shelf over there. I have all those books. I've been doing those books, reading them, and facilitating workshops all over. People pay me to come in and facilitate workshops. I got all that stuff up here. But I didn't know till I got to ACA. My kid has no idea what that's all about. My kid is scared. She's hurt. I left little me, and she didn't even have a name. That's a whole nother story. Well, they didn't really even give me a name. I had to make up a name at some point, because they gave me names that they didn't even like. And so it wasn't until coming in this time that I realized that little me is scared. I left there was an incident, and I'll tell you, when I was 7 years old, my mom used to be sick a lot. She had a lot of female problems. She had hearing issues and heart issues, and so she was in the hospital a lot. And I can remember once her being in the hospital. I was 7 years old. That meant my sister was three, and we were playing with our dad. He was fun some days. He was a lot of fun some days. We were playing horsey. We used to like to play horsey, which meant we rode on his back like a bull thing, and he would flip us over, and we would all laugh, roll around on the floor and laugh. And we were doing this. Mom's in the hospital, me and little sister. I'm seven, she's three, and we're playing horsey. And Dad says, "Put your coats on. Let's go for a ride." And that was a big deal in our house to go for a ride with Dad. So we get our coats on, me and little sister. We're standing at the top of the stairs. We're headed out for a ride with Daddy. My daddy looked at me out of nowhere, and it was like a split personality. He looked at me and said, "Where do you think you're going?" I'm like, "I'm going with you all. You and Adri, Daddy. You're not going anywhere. Go back in that house, sit down in that chair, and don't move. Don't turn on the light till I come back." And I did that. I was 7 years old. My daddy said, "Do that." And I did. I sat in that house with my coat on in the dark. I don't know how long it could have been. Could have been 20 minutes. It could have been 3 hours. I don't know. But I can tell that story, but there is no connection. And I'm going to show you here. This is that girl. This is me. That is little me. And can you imagine leaving a little kid like that in the house and telling them not to move? And I did that. And it is such a painful memory, even today, as I tell you that I am still disconnected from that girl. And that's why I have pictures. I have a baby picture of me. I have a picture of my parents, and I have pictures of me around because I'm trying to figure who was that girl? Where was she? And I know where she was. She was checked out. I assume because technology today, you can Google anything. I've Googled that apartment, 1857 South Lawndale, second floor. And when I even look at that picture, it's terrifying to even think of that picture. I am still, there's a 7-year-old me that's still over in that apartment on the west side of Chicago right now that I cannot retrieve right now because what she endured was so painful. And then I have a tendency to minimize what happened because they weren't hitting us. Mom was trying to be all sweet and nice. She was ignoring that I was getting abused. But there was just so much stuff that was happening. And so what I did is I put on a happy face and I showed up at the world as a happy kid. I did very well in school. I told you, they picked me to do all the stuff. I was always the teacher's pet and just doing wonderful stuff. And then it just fell apart. So today's reading, today's meditation was about trait 5. And I do read, this is part of what do I do? What do we do in the solution? We use the steps, we use the meetings, we use the phone. I read the meditation each day. And it was talking about trait 5 about live life from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by weaknesses in our love and friendships relationship. So once I came to NA in the 80s and I started doing recovery work and started developing my own recovery outlets for women, particularly who wanted to do work on themselves. And again, this is pre-deep ACA work. I realized that, well, I didn't realize at first. When I came to ACA right at the beginning of the pandemic, like many of us did, I was in the drug program in NA, and I had 15 sponsees. And I'm talking about 15 women who were really my sponsees, who I talked to regularly. Work the steps or die, they say in that program. And so I was doing all this work with people, and most of those women, well, all of them are adult children. You don't end up on drugs because your life's a little bad. So all those women are adult children. And I learned a long time ago I couldn't make people do what I want them to do. Now, I may want people to do this work. I may want the people in the Narcotics Anonymous program, those women to do that work in there. And most of them wouldn't do the work. And once I came here, I realized In fact, one of my daughters even told me this one time. You like people who, like follow you around. I don't like this. I don't want to think that, but that's what she's like. You like these people who follow you all around, and I'm like, hey, I don't want that. But I had all these very dependent women who were dependent on my recovery. I go to therapy twice a week. I just told you all I was working the steps hard. I was working with a sponsor. I was doing all this stuff and more. I've always been a seeker and wanted to know more. So I'm doing this, and I would attract these people who, and they say this in that program, if you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it. Now that's the part I must have missed, because I heard they wanted what I had to offer, but they weren't willing to do the work to get it. And so I gradually phased all of those women out as sponsees. I had one, this, like my therapist said, that's your best friend for real. I had my one friend, she calls me her forever sponsor, like the forever stamp. She said, I don't care what you do. You can go wherever program, you're still gonna be my sponsor. And we are friends, equal friends, because she's doing her work where she is. And that's okay. That's all I ask people to do. Do your damn work. You can't survive off of my work. And I'm not willing to give it to you anymore if you're not giving me something back, because it's tiring, y'all. It's so tiring. It's so tiring. So Monday, when I had therapy, a lot of my friends are dying. I'm 70. So my peers are dying. A lot of them are dying. So this week, on my way to therapy Monday, I found out another storytelling friend of mine. Actually, I found out two. One I knew in passing, but someone I knew very close has passed away. And I started thinking, because I get these texts regularly. Did you hear about so and so? Have you heard about so? And that usually meant they died when somebody said. And one day somebody's going to get a text and they're going to say, "Did you hear about Oroki?" And what I'm on right now is, I want to be able, when they say Oroki might have been messy, but Oroki was trying, and she was trying hard. And that's my legacy that I want to be. That I tried. Definitely not perfect. The story, I'm still with the man who left, who was dancing with the other woman on. So I'm still with him right now in the house where we don't argue. We used to argue. We're past that. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done that. If you hadn't said that, I wouldn't have said that. That used to be a lot of that happening. That doesn't happen anymore. I don't care. You can do whatever you want to. I'm going to just go a little step further and say we have not been physically intimate in 13 years now. I moved away to Madison, Wisconsin at some point for 6 years. We stayed in contact. Even though we lived in different states, we continued to be intimate with each other. I came back to Chicago in August of 2012, and that doesn't happen anymore. And in the meanwhile, I'm like my granny and the other women in my family. I'm gonna find a way to get my needs met. And there's a relationship I've been carrying on. He knows, he doesn't know, he doesn't talk about it. We pretend we don't know it's happening, but that's not it either. She cannot be my loving parent. I gotta be my own goddamn loving parent. I was so mad when I came to ACA and found that out. My therapist the other day, when I was talking to her, I was telling her the situation that I had gone through and how I handled it. And she said to me, "Mr. Oroki, sounds like you're being your own loving parent." And it happens some days. It happens many days that I show up for myself. My boundaries have changed. A lot of people who were my friends, who does she think she is? I hear the rumors they're talking about me. And I'm even at the point now, don't tell me what people say about me. I don't need to hear that. If they can't tell me themselves, I don't need to know what people are saying about me. Quit talking about. And as Jay-Z, to quote Jay-Z said, why did they feel so comfortable that they could talk to you about me? So quit talking about me. I had a fellow traveler day before yesterday, called me up with some stuff. She was telling me there's so many mean-spirited people in this program and blah, blah, blah. And I stopped her and I said, I only want to know what you got to say. Don't tell me what the other people say. Tell me what you said about it. And then she shut it down after that. So, yeah, this work is hard, you all. It is very hard, but it's worth it. So I'm learning, and this is the really hard part for me, to embrace the sadness. I know we will learn how to play and have fun, and I'm really good with that. I got all kind. I'm looking on my desk right now. There's a Candyland game. There's gel pens, markers, bubble gum, peppermints, nails, fake nails, all kind of stuff. I know how to have fun in my life. But I like to say, some of you all who know me know I have 3 daughters and 8 granddaughters. Oh my God, that can be so fun. But that can be painful too, because that didn't turn out the way I thought it was either. I was thinking, oh, I'm not going to be like either my grandparents, my grandchildren are going to know I love them and they're so special, blah, 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 blah. I got a grandchild living in this building, 16 years old, that doesn't even talk to me. If she walks by, now she lives with autism, but that's not why she don't talk to me, because she talk to people she want to talk to. But I can see Layla. I can pass her in the hall, and Layla will run back up the stairs if she sees me. One day I stopped her in the hall and like, Layla, why do you do that? Why you run from me? Why you ignore me? Have I ever done anything to offend you? Layla looked me in the eye and said, I just don't like you. Wow. But you know what? Layla has every right to not like me. She don't have to like me. What I do find hurtful is that she's rude to me, and her mother allows her to be rude to me. Because I think if you live in the building, even if that's not your grandmother, you should say hello when you see them in the hall. But that's not where it is, and I have to accept the people I cannot change, and have the courage to change this one person, Oroki, who I can. And that can be hard, but it begins with recognizing where I need to change, and also acknowledging what I'm really good at. And I'm really good at connecting with people. My mama gave me that. She was a good connector, and she gave me and my sister the gift of connecting with people. So I don't have that issue. I connect with people. If anything, I got to be careful on how much I connect with people, because I wake up every day and I probably have like 30, 40 texts. Good day. And some of you get those texts from me. I see you smiling, Gretchen. Some of you get those texts from me, and I take time. Those are individual texts. If you notice, I have your name in it, and I've chosen things specially to send to you because it's a connection to me, and I love connecting with people. So again, Renee, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to share. I'm woke now. I do service in another meeting tonight. I'm sure somebody will put it in the chat. The Zoom Boom Room. I've been going there for 3 years, every week. For 3 years, I've been in the Zoom Boom Room, and it starts off with a dance party. And over time, I DJ there sometimes. And my teenager loves that. She gets to pick the music that she wants to hear, and she gets to engage. I'm watching y'all on the couch. I'm watching y'all right now. Some people don't like Zoom because they say it's so impersonal. I can see you all, and I'm looking at everybody on the screen, and I see who I'm connecting with in your heart right now. And that's all I want right now, is to connect with people like me. If I came on here and didn't say anything for 5 minutes, you all would know me. If when you all come here, I know you because you're here. And I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to be of service to this wonderful program that my higher power has given me and given you. Thank you very much. I love you. And with that, I pass.